All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Mainly Celtics. This is your boy Emery with our good friend Matt Money. Pretty shit week as a Celtics fan, wouldn't you say, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, we went 2-2 on the week, but it felt so much worse because of just the two losses that we had.
Yeah,
They just weren't very. I mean, like the Knicks are an okay team, but the Spurs are straight up bad,
yeah,
and the Spurs just kind of like. I mean, they didn't like kick the shit out of us, but I mean they beat us, and it was really a game we probably shouldn't have lost by
right.
any means, but it's just frustrating. I mean, you look at this and you think, okay, maybe we lose one with the Knicks, but you really, especially because the Spurs beat us earlier this year too.
Hmm.
You hope that you can split a season series with a team that's well under 500 already at this point in the year, but they just have our number for whatever reason. I think I saw a stat that at the last like 23 or 22 meetings, the Spurs are like 19-4, 19-3 against us,
Yeah,
which isn't surprising because it does feel like they like thoroughly kick our ass like every single year. So
yeah, low
and
scoring
pro-
game, just grind out a win, and that's what happened on
yeah,
Wednesday. But
yeah, probably doesn't help that it's mentor mentee too in this situation this year.
exactly, yeah, sort of like the Belichick Saban thing. Um, but I think the reason why the week started off so poorly or why the week feels so shitty was because that Magic game on Monday just felt so bad. Like we had to go to overtime. We had to get some clutch plays down the stretch. Like I mean, just to get to overtime, and then they finally did beat the Magic. But I mean, it was just like there were so many opportunities in that game to take a stranglehold, to go out. I mean, Jaylen Brown scored 50 points, and there was there was
We squeaked it out.
squeaked it out. I mean, this was the last game without Tatum, correct? Or did Tatum not
Yeah, no, Tatum played in the Spurs game.
play in the Spurs game? That's right. Okay. I
Um,
mean,
yeah, I think the under was set pretty low. I mean, the over under too. So I mean, they expect this to not be a very pretty game. I believe like the under was like 210 or something like that. Um, Neither one of these. I mean, the Magic they aren't really playing for anything at this point of the year. They're one of the worst teams in the NBA. Like you said, we were without Tatum, and we got a 50-point performance out of Jaylen. We still struggled to really cobble up any sort of offense outside of him. We started to pull away, I believe, in like the second quarter, and then they quickly were able to like kind of close that gap. And this is just like not good enough of a team to be able to like not be able to just kind of like stomp their throats out and just thoroughly kick the shit out. Like we should beat them.
yeah,
It shouldn't be close. Like it looked like it was headed that way, and then we just kind of blew it like it seems to do in the second half of um, almost. It feels like almost every game this year, no matter what our lead is, it always seems to shrink in the second half, which is very frustrating to watch. And we'll kind of get more into that with the coaching and the players later, and some of the quotes that came out after the Knicks game. But yeah, I mean, this was like it's a win, but it was like one of the ugliest ways to get a win. It wasn't a pretty win by any means. But
yeah. I mean, I said that with 6 minutes left in the second quarter, the Celtics were up 41-28, and then at the half it was 45-42. I mean, Terrence Ross played one of his best games of his career. I think I remember watching the game, watching the broadcast, and Terrence Ross has the second most points ever without starting without if you like take away all the games that he didn't start, he has like second most bench point in the last 20 years or something like that. Something bizarre, just very strange.
yeah, he's always. I think he was even a six man when he's playing in Toronto, but he's always one of those guys, especially against the Celtics. Always seems to kill us, but it's like very frustrating because it always seems like I wouldn't call him a role player, but I mean he's no star. Like he's one of the better players on that team, but he's certainly no star. And he kind of torched us, and it seemed to be a common theme. I think DeJounte is the next level above some of the other guys we kind of talk about. in some of the games we struggle against. But we really can't have guys like Terrence Ross, Evan Fournier just constantly killing us. It's not going to end well. Like, we need to be able to figure and scheme, make adjustments to be able to stop these guys.
I mean, there were just times where someone else would bring the ball up for Orlando and pass the ball to a wide open Terrence Ross every time. Like, he was able to catch the ball and shoot it, or catch the ball, make one cut, and get to the lane with no viable defense at all. I mean, I think that's where the whole, like, the disdain for this week, and there was Twitter would have melted down if the Celtics lost that game in Orlando. It would have.
Yeah,
it would have been bad.
Been a really bad week, because like this 6-game stretch that we're right in the middle of right now, I believe we have the Pacers next. Like, we had a fairly easy schedule. It's like a stretch that we really should be able to win at least 4 out of 6 games in. It's been a really poor start, and would have made it almost impossible with how this week we wouldn't have been able to win. Now we have to win out the next 2 in order to kind of still get to that 4-2 mark. But yeah, I mean, Terrence Ross, the Magic aren't a good team. Like, you really have only a couple guys you really have to key in on, and for Terrence Ross just to thrash us, it seems like he always does, it's pretty frustrating. But we still get the win. We eked it out. You'd hope that they'd come back kind of refocused for the Spurs game.
Shout out Jalen Brown, 50 burger though. Great game, career high, awesome game, very fun to watch.
Yeah, Jalen had quite the week, honestly. We'll get to that in the second Knicks game, but the Spurs game, when I looked at the box score afterwards and saw there's only 8 turnovers, it felt far too low for what I saw. Like, it seemed like there was very just sloppy offensive basketball for the Celtics just the entire game. Mm-hmm. DeJounte Murray is another guy. We talked about Terrence Ross. I mean, Fournier this year just seems to absolutely kill us every time he played us. I think he's had a near triple-double in both games. He's had 20 points. He had 20, 9 and 7 in this time, I believe. I had his line somewhere here. I guess I don't. But I knew he was going to go off against us. I bet the over on his points, rebounds, assists. That hit. I bet the under on Tatum's points, rebounds, and assists with his first game back. We saw how much he struggled from COVID, come back from COVID last year. He was able to quickly come back. This week, he seemed to play better as the week went on, but I knew he was going to kind of have a poor start to this week. And I really hope that they were going to be able to get a victory in Toronto, but it was Toronto. It was I mean, not Toronto. In San Antonio, but it was tough. I mean, it's just not what you want to see. No. They just played poorly offensively. That's really what it came down to. No one really stepped up. It's Tatum's first game back. It's I don't know. They need to figure out some different rotations or different, I don't know, just whole lineups. We're going to talk about the young guys too, where it really lacks shooting at times. And it seems like they force 3-point shots because there's no outside shooting, that the guys that can shoot force the outside shots because the paint's very, very congested. And it just leads to bad basketball a lot of times. But I don't have too many takes from the Spurs game, other than I'm glad we don't have to see them again this year, because they seem to thoroughly have our number, and especially DeJounte Murray.
Absolutely. I mean, DeJounte Murray, Devin Vassell played a great game. He looked like a legit wing piece on that team. Somebody was out. Who was it? They were missing somebody in their lineup due to health and safety protocols, and Devin Vassell made the most of his opportunity. He's looking like the guy that we thought Aaron Naismith would be. Which I mean, he was one.
He was picked before Naismith, but
he was
one that.
Yeah.
I think he was 11. Naismith was 14.
14 or 16. Yeah. I did have him. It was him and Vassell were the two guys we wanted to see picked in that spot. Right. I thought both of them were going to be just good athletic, wings that could shoot the basketball. Obviously, Vassell seemed to developed much more than Naismith has so far. Yeah.
to this point in his career. But it's tough that he had to show out against us. But
Absolutely. I mean, the thing looking at this box score, I mean, San Antonio shot 10 of 26 from three. The Celtics shot 9 of 28. I mean, 19 threes in the entire game is 19 made threes is very low for an NBA game. And I mean, it's just shit shooting all around for the Celtics. 1 of 6 from Tatum from downtown. Al Horford 0 of 3. I would like to talk about Al Horford at the end of this show because
yeah, we're gonna have a whole get stuff off our chest segment in a little bit. And I think I'm gonna be with you on some of the takes that we have. But
yeah, Marcus Smart 2 of 4, Jaylen Brown 4 of 8. Only real guy to show up all weekend. I mean, Tatum had had a good game against New York, but Dennis Schroeder 1 of 4, Grant Williams 0 for 1. I mean, he played 22 minutes and took 2 shots. It seems like a microcosm of the whole season, you know, like that sort of stat line. I mean, it just means that no one's driving the ball. There's no ball movement, and there isn't enough offense. Like the offense isn't creative enough to get their own shot, to be able to, like, they're not being they're not attacking the rim. They're not doing anything like that. They're sticking around the perimeter, and it leads to 2 shot attempts from Grant Williams, a guy who has really, really taken a jump this year and needs to be a part of the success of this team if they're going to win.
Yeah, definitely very effective in the role that's given. But he is just somewhat. I mean, he's a role player and he plays it well. And he's one that he's not going to force his own stuff. So it is really a product of just how the game's going. But we can move on to the.
Hold on. If you're not going to get you, okay, so you can't win if you don't have a game plan to also get your role players involved. There needs to be a plan in place to get your guys points. First of all, you get your guys that score the ball need to get points. You need Jason and Jaylen to drive the ball, and you need then to rely on guys like Grant, Josh Richardson, who has been there as of late. But it's just piss poor game plan, piss poor execution. It was
just probably one of the most hard. I mean, it was back-to-back games. Like, we didn't even talk about how the game ended. Just with Jaylen Brown missed one that was the worst inbound pass I've ever seen. I can't remember who threw it for them. Just threw it right to Jaylen Brown, just looking right at him. And Jaylen Brown just funny to name. That would have been able to tie it up. But yeah, that was brutal. That was just absolutely awful. Way to lose that one. And we come right back and we're like, okay, lost a heartbreaker, we really should beat. We have Al back for the first time to help guard Julius Randle. You figure that's like the best matchup you can possibly have for Julius Randle. Julius didn't do too much against us, but Evan Fournier had possibly the game of his life. I don't know if that was his career high, but I know it certainly, if it wasn't, it was probably pretty close. And I think he brought his averages up against the Celtics to like 34 points a game. Yeah. When he's averaging this season, I think 11 against every other team.
Yeah.
So
41
just shooting the ball wide open.
82 is a crazy stat line for a guy like Fournier.
Yeah, a guy that was getting DNPs in the fourth quarter like a week or two ago, like 2 weeks ago. Like right. And against other teams, he's terrible. I think his splits where he was shooting 50 something percent from the field, 50 something percent from three against the Celtics, and against every other team, he's shooting like 38% from the field, like 34% from three.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times you're just shooting wide open. It's like you can't get guys lost, or it's like, I don't know. You cannot allow a guy like Evan Fournier. And I think he was 10 for 14 from three. So it's like he was just getting wide open 3-point look after wide open 3-point look. Like you just can't allow that to happen. Like you need to, and we're talking a lot about it's like the scheme and like making adjustments. Like it wasn't like he did all this in the span of 5 minutes. He was doing this throughout the game. Like you have to make adjustments. You have to take him out of it because he was the only one that was really beating you tonight. It's frustrating because he's essentially on this team. He's a role, but he's not obviously the guy. I mean, you could say possibly he's a number two, but it hasn't really looked like that through much of the season. Now it's just frustrating. I mean, and once again, we lose on pure luck on an RJ Barrett bank shot 3, where
Mhm.
Tatum contested the shot. It was just, that's how the season's been going at this point in the year.
Yeah. Fourth blown lead of 19 points or more. That culminated that RJ Barrett shot culminated a 25-point comeback. Just very ineffective basketball from the Celtics. Ineffective
I
and
mean,
lackluster.
yeah, they got outscored 61-42 in the second half. So that's just not pretty. Tatum and Rob, I'd include Schroeder in that too. We're the only ones that really played well. I think Rob had something, a crazy stat line. Like, I think he only had like 11 points, but he had like 9 boards and 7 blocks, something absurd like that. Tatum played pretty well this game. Schroeder played pretty well. I think for Schroeder, for the most part, like, we do give him a lot of crap, and I do think that I still feel pretty strongly about trading him, but at the same time, like, he's pretty good at what he does. It's just what he does isn't really what we really need.
No. It would be nice if we if we weren't in this situation with Marcus Smart being the starting point guard, that we could, if we had another point guard where Schroeder could just run the second team. Like, he's out there a lot of the times with Jaylen Brown and with Jason Tatum and with Al and with guys like that. I mean, like, it would.
Well, I don't think you have to be doing that though. Like, you can stagger them away from the Jays, and like, I don't know why that's not done more.
No, we'll get to we'll get to that at the end. But I mean, yeah, Rob did have a great game. 6 points, excuse me, 6 points, 9 rebounds, 3 for 3, 7 blocks, 0 turnovers, 2 steals, and an assist. But end of the day, as a minus 12.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. Once again, we talk about, like,
Yeah,
1 game plus minus isn't really the best stat to look at, but like, he played well by any means. Like, you watch him play and you're like, wow, Rob's out there just being very active like he normally is. Didn't really get the ball very much. I would like to see more offense run kind of for him, through him. I really think you could be more successful with like a Jaylen and Jason, like, run pick and rolls with them. Obviously, they're not very good lob passers, but at the same time, you have one of the better lob threats, I think, right now in the NBA. So I think we should probably utilize it a little bit more.
no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics were hitting all their threes in the first half, and just they stopped falling in the second half. And that was a big part of the game, but they kept shooting them, and they let Evan Fournier get a bunch of really good looks, and that was pretty much the key to the Knicks comeback. And we just need to be better, flat out. And just a wildly different game the following game against the Knicks last night. We were very fortunate that both Kemba and Fournier didn't play, because they obviously have vendetta against us, because we didn't want them back this year. That was the first thing. Not a pretty game at all. Like, definitely on the uglier side of basketball games. Once again, Rob, Nolan talked about it right? Nolan was on last week, not you. Yeah, right? Okay, word. I couldn't remember. I knew someone else. No, Nolan was talking about Rob had a great week last week. He continued it this week. I think he was really impactful. Jaylen was also great. He recorded his first ever triple double with 22 points, 11 boards, 11 assists.
9 of 15 shooting too. Great.
Yeah, very efficient. Jaylen was there to play. I think we're seeing more and more when Jaylen's stepped up when the team really needs it, which is very helpful. I think that's probably part of it, with Tatum being out for that extended period of time, that Jaylen has felt more comfortable as the lead guy. I do think they really do need to work on maximizing them both together, though. I feel like that is definitely something this season that we've seen, that they almost look like sometimes they're better when one's on, one's off. But they need to have ways for them both to be serious threats when they're on the court. Because, like, what's the point having 2 stars if you can't find ways to make them both a threat every single time down the court?
Yeah. There should be no possessions where guys like hold on. Sorry. There should be no possessions where those 2 guys don't touch the ball. I mean, like there are times when the ball gets chucked in deep to Al and he kicks it out, and I mean, like it's an early shot clock shot from a guy like Schroeder or Richardson. Richardson, good game, 30 minutes, 4 of 10, scored 17 points, got to the line. Um, Richardson has improved over this week. I thought Richardson was a guy that is playing up to his potential. I mean, he's scoring 11 points a game, being the threat, able to bring the ball up in those bench situations where we've got one of the Jays sitting, and a guy that knows the offense, whatever the offense is. Apparently, like he's got it. But like he has been successful, and I know we'll talk about contracts and trades at the end maybe a little bit. But what do you think about, will we have the team option on Richardson next year?
I think it's a guaranteed deal.
I'm pretty sure it's a team option.
No, I'm pretty sure they extended him.
Okay, fair enough.
I think it was originally a team option, but I think that
Okay.
they extended him an extra year.
Okay.
Because they did it so they could, I think, hopefully make a big splash this off season with making a trade and having one of those few like mid-level like 10 like decent money contracts to make money match. Yeah, to make money match. But as a team, I mean, Richardson's been a great surprise with his 3-point shooting this year. I don't think anyone expected him to shoot as well as he has. As a team against the Knicks, they shot the ball well from 3, and we kind of limited turnovers. I think we only had 10, which I'll take. I mean, as long as they're not getting up in the upper teens, 20s, I'll take that for the most part.
Yeah.
So, 2-2 on the week, definitely not ideal, but also not the worst thing that could happen. I just think we've kind of moved past the point of really considering these guys contenders, and I just think we need to really be looking ahead to what is the best thing that we can do to maximize all of our guys that are under contract, all the guys that we believe to have a future with this team. How can we maximize them for the rest of the season?
Okay, that's a good thing to bring up. Okay, so who on this roster right now do you want on the team next year?
Obviously the Jays. I want the Jays.
Let's keep Jay and Rob are the three that are surefire yeses.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason to move off of guys like Romeo, Neesmith, and Pritchard right now because they're still on the rookie deals.
Yeah.
And right now their value is not high enough where I think you're getting anything good value. Smart, I would like, but if he's the piece that they want back in like a deal that really will be a upgrade of a third star, I wouldn't be mind sending him out, but I would prefer to keep Marcus Smart.
Mm-hmm.
And really from there, I want Grant back.
Yeah.
And after that, it's like I can take it either way. If we're able to get off Al's contract, and I don't want to dump it, obviously. I want to get value back for him. But if the team is looking to maybe absorb a contract and maybe there's a team player that's unhappy where they are and we're able to make the money match using Al, maybe using a pick or two, use Richardson, something like that to make the money match, I'd really like that. I think that's best case scenario.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little bit down on it. I know you are as well. Obviously, we're down at Schroeder. Richardson, I think, has played great. I also don't think we can expect him to just continue to play as well as he has year in and year out. And I don't think that I just don't think that he's like necessarily part of our future. But,
no, I don't think so either. But I am, like I said, really happy with the success he's found over the last week or so. And if anything, it's helping his value.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping that at the end of this year, his value will be much higher than it has been the past few seasons. Right. So my question to you, and you can kind of piggyback on it with your Al take that I know you wanted. We'll talk about Ime in a little bit, but should we move Al Horford to the bench is my question. And I have some stats that you may find interesting. So the original starting lineup, which obviously is what I consider our core four, Rob, Smart, the Jays, and Al have a net rating of plus 15.2 and 264 possessions. It's one of our most played lineups this year. Mm-hmm. That same lineup of our core four, but with Grant instead of Al, is a plus 30.2 per 100 possessions in 54 possessions so far this year. So they've been about a plus 15 in about 54 possessions. So the lineup's been very solid with Grant in replace of Al.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's a big upgrade on shooting this year because Al's just been atrocious shooting the basketball so far this season.
I think he's shooting 27% from three, which is not good. I mean, and especially if you've got a guy like Marcus Smart out there who's also shooting about 26, 27, 28% from three. That is not good. You need some. I did not know the plus minus on the Grant lineup. That would I hope that's something that's in consideration, because to go off of that, I do like the fact if we've got like guys like Schroeder, Richardson, Romeo out there with Al, great facilitator, a guy that can move the ball to positions where you see guys like Richardson has been a decent spot up shooter. Romeo's been playing decent, I guess. I mean, like, he's
had a rough stretch after starting the year pretty strong.
Yeah, that's why I say decent. I mean, like, he's getting a couple spot starts here and there when Tatum was out, but I mean, Al seems to just fit that sort of style of basketball. I mean, if you can move the ball down low to the elbows and then get Schroeder moving downhill. He's one of the quickest guys in the league off the ball. I mean, like, it would be good to have a facilitator like that. And like we've seen before, we have seen the staggering of the Jays. I mean, if Al's on that bench unit, we'll probably see Jalen or Jason with the wing players we brought up and Al. That would fit theoretically, like in your head, that would fit the way that this team plays basketball, the way that this team is constructed. So I would have to agree with that fact. But I know,
and
go ahead.
We also don't give up the big physical lineup that we would have with Allen there. Like, Grant's still pretty big, still pretty physical. Like, he's still more of a four than like sliding Tatum up and playing the four.
Yeah, that's true. But we had talked this week. I am ready to trade out. I mean, it's just he's worn out his welcome for sure, and I'm tired of seeing him jack up all this shit that just like catch the ball at the elbow and shoot an ugly mid-range jumper too. Like,
so part of it, I do agree. I don't think Al, like I said, like, I could take it or leave it. I'd love to see Al included in a trade that can get us back kind of an upgrade of a player. But also, I think that I saw a stat somewhere the last couple of years, or as opposed to what his career usually is, he's taking much, like, of the percentage of his shots, he's taking many more threes than he normally does. Normally, he's like, his average shot location is closer to the paint. I think a lot of that is he's playing the power forward alongside Rob, who's typically the guy that's kind of going to be down low. So I think staggering him with Rob and keeping them kind of away from each other for the most part will allow Al to operate inside, which, like, kind of surprisingly, he's actually better this year from within 3 feet than he has been the past couple seasons. He's like actually like shooting the ball pretty effectively inside. So I think maybe switching him, putting him as that backup center as opposed to putting him alongside Rob and making him more into like a catch and shoot guy in the corner as his role, I think would probably help with his overall play and make him more effective offensively. And you could run more stuff through him on the bench, with the bench unit.
Yeah. But do you think that the jump in effectiveness inside is due to Rob being on the court too? Do you think that it's pulling bigs away from Al? Like, he's not being guarded by the biggest guy on the court every time down. He's able to. What do you think about that?
I would say no. I mean, I think that typically teams are going to go with their center. I think no matter what center's playing on him, wherever the center is, whoever the center is, I think when they're playing on Rob, they're pretty much just going to be staying down low in the paint to try and protect the rim, because it's not like Rob is pretty much any sort of a threat outside 3 feet. So I think either way he's going to face the same thing. if anything, he'll be able to see more matchups with big men off the dribble and be able to maybe create off drives more. Another thing I want to point out before we completely move on from when I talk about the starting lineup, Richardson's also someone I kind of thought about maybe inserting him to the starting lineup. I do really love him as the bench shot creator. You obviously aren't going to be playing that physical lineup. You could play with Grant or Al as the 4. You'd have instead Tatum as the 4. But he has a plus 39.8 in the 38 possessions. I think it's the best unit with that core 4 out of anyone. So inserting Richardson would be the best unit out of the core 4. But that was only in 38 possessions, which is less than both the lineup with Al and Grant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I said, just a couple more notes I'll kind of get through, and then we'll talk about Ime. Once again, Schroeder's been fine this year. The only reason I'm suggesting trading him so much is it's just the fit's not great. You have him taking away minutes from younger guys that I think maybe do deserve an opportunity to play, especially Pritchard. I would like to see him develop as a point guard. We saw him, what looked to be him take a leap in the summer league and preseason. And for him to kind of just get buried on the bench because we have Schroeder kind of stinks. And he's going to walk either way. I mean, he's going to walk either way. So you might as well just try and get some value, whether or not it's like two second-round picks
right now.
Yeah. I mean, to whatever team wants it, it's pretty much based on need, and it kind of sucks now. Denver could still be in the market to buy, but teams like Denver, maybe Dallas, I think should be probably in the market to be trying to upgrade their backup point guard position.
Absolutely. I think when you bring up Dallas, I mean, the only guy that really fits with the Celtics team is Maxi Kleber. And
they wouldn't be giving up him for that. I just think it might be just 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
Just 2 more flyers. You never know. At least it's some value for a guy that's just going to walk to a team that's not ready to contend right now.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it just doesn't. It stinks that we can't flip Schroeder.
We can't. Something of more value. Yeah, but it's just there's not very many teams that really needs what Schroeder does, which really sucks. Like, he doesn't really shoot well from 3. He's obviously limited defensively because of his size. Mm-hmm. But also, I had one more note about moving out of the bench. Also, it pretty much eliminate the need to play Enes Kanter when both the bigs are healthy, which would, I think, be a bonus, and everyone would like to see that.
Absolutely. And it's freedom, by the way, too, Matt.
I didn't say the last name, did I?
I think you said Enes Kanter, but
oh, I just thought I said Enes. I've been working on just putting it as Enes so I don't confuse myself.
No, I know. I'm doing the same thing.
I don't say it either way, just because I'm going to get confused when I'm reading Freedom. But
I can't say Enes, man. This guy's a bum.
Yeah. So last thing I promise before we talk about Ime, because I know both of us kind of want to talk about Ime.
Yeah.
Neesmith and Bruno Fernando got sent out of Maine. Bruno Fernando, that's not really surprising. He's been bouncing, yo-yoing back and forth throughout the year. But really concerning because, like, what the hell are we doing with our young guys? Like, what is our plan of development? Like, it doesn't seem like we have any clear-cut system in place or idea, or just develop these guys. We see, once again, Pritchard getting buried after having a successful year. We see Neesmith start turning on, and he gets buried. Romeo is obviously injured. It just doesn't seem like we have really a plan for improvement for those 3 in particular. So absolutely. That's just.
And when you're drafting at the middle of the lottery too, like those guys that we're getting there, when you're taking these guys, they need to have a legit game plan. They need to have the development that they need, because we're not taking a top 5 pick. We're not getting Jaylen Brown every year. We're not getting Jason Tatum every year in these returns. We need guys that will create a role for themselves on this team through the development of our coaching, things like that. And it's non-existent.
I think really the goal is, anytime you're drafting outside the top 10, like, the goal is before their rookie contract's over, so when they're still cheap, you're creating a rotation player out of them.
Yeah.
And right now they really haven't done that with either of those 3. The only one they've done it recently with is Grant. And I think that was more Grant working his ass off on his own.
Yeah.
And losing the weight, becoming incredibly better shooter. Like, this wasn't incremental. This was him going from being 35% to 45%. Like, that's a crazy jump.
very much
So I
so.
think that's more on Grant's hard work and determination as opposed to like a clear cut developmental
Yeah, a
plan in place.
development staff.
But okay, so get your takes off about Ime.
I mean, we see it in all of these things that he's saying, like in all of these press conferences. I mean, watching the first or like the pregame with Scal last night. The guy just sat there, was monotone. He didn't have any flair for anything. He was like, "Oh, we're just gonna do this, and then hopefully that this happens." And he's so uninterested in coaching basketball. Like even his mannerisms and his expressions on the sideline, I've yet to see him get fired up once this year. Have you?
No, I mean, I don't know if he's really fired. But at the same time, like when you talk about like the media stuff, typically I don't really take much. I don't know. I think he's just trying to be like Pop. I think is what he's trying to do. Like I think he's trying to be short with the media. Like he's doing a lot of things he saw Pop do. Because obviously that was his biggest mentor. That was who he played for as a player. Also like coached under him for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Obviously with Team USA as well. So I think he's trying to do what Pop does for the most time. It obviously doesn't come off the same way when you're not Greg Popovich and you don't have that resume behind you.
Yeah,
But
you're also not like an old crotchety white, like you're a young NBA vet that has legit like connections to these players that are playing basketball. I mean, Popovich does not. Ime has played in the type of competitiveness that needs to come to win basketball games in the NBA, and he is not bringing it.
yeah, but I think that's part. Like I said, like I think it's part of it. Like he's trying to come across as how Popovich does. Like he wants to. I know obviously Pop gets fired up too, and I mean he's getting fired up at points in time. So I think for the most time he tries to stay pretty monotone with it. But I think that's a lot of it is just what he's observed. I think he was with the Nets last year, I believe. And I mean, Steve Nash is probably one of the most just even keel coaches I've ever seen. Like he doesn't get upset, I think, about anything. So I think that's just what he's observed as his mentors have done. Bud's another one. Bud's not another guy that's really like a crazy, like getting up and getting angry for the most part. But
Fucking hate Bud.
I think it's just what he's watched and observed. So I think that's probably a lot of the reason why he's like that. My biggest concern is just he doesn't seem to make in-game adjustments very well. Fourth quarters have been atrocious so far this season. Our young guys, it seems like he just really just has it out for Pritchard and Neesmith for some reason, which really sucks because those are guys I think have shown a lot of promise. And I think part of it, like I think it's really early. Like he is a rookie head coach. I think what Brad did as a rookie head coach, I mean, I can't even really remember what people were saying at that time about Brad. I think that was really rare for Brad to be that good, that young. And I think it's going to be more of a learning process. And I think we really made a mistake trying to go not even all in, but like acquire veterans that'll help us win now when we're going with a rookie head coach and we have a fairly young team outside of a few players.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's ready to coach a playoff team yet. And that's like, I guess it's fine in year one. We didn't expect that of Brad year one. So I don't know.
But
I think it's a weird situation.
Brad also inherited one of like a really shit team.
Yeah, like I agree.
Inheriting a team that's been to 3 Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, but that's also not really Ime's like his fault that he's in like acquiring that team. It's like he's expected to take this team to the playoffs and like probably win a round. I think that was probably the expectation this year is to like be able to get to the second round or at least make the playoffs and not have to play in the play-in. Like I think that was the expectation. But he's also like once again, he's a rookie head coach, and I just think that's a lot of I just think it is a little too early to like obviously like start heating up the seat. I think we have to wait and see what he does next year. I just think there's definitely some fair criticisms you could have as a Celtics fan watching the way the Celtics have played this season of Ime. I think a lot of the blame, I think a good portion of it has to be put on him because we have good enough players that we could be at least right now, probably like a top 5 seed in the East. But I think a lot of it is I mean, if we didn't blow those 4 19-point leads, we'd be what, I think like 22-17, 23-17.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the difference right there. Then all of a sudden we're no one's sweating it at all. Like if you just don't blow 4 massive leads, then you're one of the better teams in the East, and there's no real concern.
And so
So I think a
how
lot of
does
that's got to fall on the coach.
yeah, absolutely. That's what I was about to say. What do those 19-point leads mean as a coach? Like that it means can't make any changes and that the changes that you do make don't work.
Yeah. I just think he's got to grow as a coach. I think is the biggest thing. I think he is a rookie head coach. I think we forget that a lot because the expectations are pretty high. I just think he has a lot of growth to be had.
No, I'm hesitant to want to see, but I know that it's going to come.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to see how the season plays out. I hope to see improvement as the season goes on. You expect him. I mean, I think you should see some sign of improvement, just as like we see with players. Like you want to see some promise that he's maybe learned and started to figure out how to avoid these big second half collapses. So we're just gonna have to wait and find out like whether or not he's making these adjustments and figure out what he's doing wrong in order to like improve himself as a coach.
Yeah.
Or he'll be probably out within 2 years if he just continues to consistently blow 20-point leads.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. If this same thing happens next year, he's gone.
Yeah, and I think that's somewhat fair. I think this year they should try and trade off and get as much value as possible for some of their veterans and really try and develop the young guys and come back next year and come back. Maybe the expectations be a little bit lower, ride with some of your core guys, some of your younger guys, and really just try to be one of those like top 6 teams in the East, top 6, 7 teams in the East. Make the playoffs and then
That's
continue building. But we need to. I mean, we do need to get this thing in motion before we have to pay Jalen. Before we have to start talking about paying Jalen again.
Yeah, right. Which is 2024.
Yeah, I think so. But even then, I think even before that, we can begin like trying to extend him. So I think at that point we need to like have a picture in place, be in the right direction because he's not going to want to. Yeah, by the end of 2023, I think we're going to want to see some improvement. So, well, that's all I had. Klay Thompson is back today. He's making his return. I'm glad to see that. I love Klay Thompson. Kyrie made his return.
I don't give a shit about that. Klay Thompson is appointment television tonight.
Yeah, probably the most. I think he's got to be like the most likable player in the NBA. I think he has to be.